I was growing up, I had always been passionately curious to know more about the world. How long has the universe been around? What is our purpose of being here? And most importantly, how on earth does it actually work? This persistent curiosity of mine has led me to become obsessed with watching science channels on YouTube. Some of them you might recognize. These include Krizia, Veritasium, Minute Physics, and Vsauce. So, what is the point of me speaking about all of this? That's because I really want to talk to you about technology, exploring the world whether on a quantum or cosmic scale, and applying our growing scientific knowledge to create new inventions and procedures is what I believe technology is all about. It has become an integral part of our worldwide society and one of the most significant components of humanity's progress. Now, it's safe to say that technology has pretty much become part of the world that I seek to comprehend. Picture yourself living a century ago. You'd have a full home without refrigerators, washing machines, air conditioning, televisions, or even the internet. Could any of you live without the internet? I'm guessing not. And if you claim otherwise, you're probably lying to yourself. Technology has indeed drastically increased our quality of life. Public transportation has become many times more accessible and efficient over the past century. Food and clean water has become much more accessible. Healthcare has improved tremendously. And socialization and productivity has also increased with the world becoming interconnected. All of these essential aspects of life have been greatly impacted by or thanks to technology. Of course, every story has two sides to it. While technology has obviously been crucial to our development, there are also other consequences depending on how it's utilized. Let's take a look at our phones. How many of you have just laid in bed for hours, doing nothing but just scrolling through your phone through social media, completely forgetting about all the work that has piled up on your table, or the chores that you were meant to do an hour ago? If you're anything like me, probably close to a daily basis, as shameful as that sounds, there's been many times when I've planned out the day ahead of me to complete my work, only to get sidetracked using my phone. Before I realize it, 2 hours have passed and I've done nothing but procrastinate. What do I do afterwards? Well, I lose all of my remaining motivation to do work. Our phones, while of course they are incredibly useful, they can also be a detriment to our productivity. According to statistics, teenagers spend over 7 hours on their phones, which coincidentally is roughly equal to the amount of sleep their average teenager gets. And surely some of the time we spend on our phones could have been spent getting some much needed extra sleep. And I'm well aware that some of you sleep past midnight on a regular basis. Well, speaking of the excessive time we spend on social media, how many of you have seen articles or videos on the seemingly ever worsening state of our environment? Perhaps it could be about natural disasters, pollution, or of course, climate change. Their titles could be along the lines of "Climate change is happening faster than we thought," or "Scientists are skeptical that we will overcome global warming." In any case, all of you should be aware that our technological advancements have played a huge part in contributing to climate change. Well known examples being the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and carbon emissions from manufacturing and transportation. With rapid population growth and urbanization, waste generation has inevitably increased, leading to pollution. While browsing through the internet, I also noticed a group of people that are incredibly hopeless about the future of our planet. Due to the current state of the environment, as well as the numerous predictions of disastrous outcomes by researchers and scientists, it seems as if the future is bleak and we will ultimately destroy our own home. This is known as climate nihilism, and I've personally been very concerned about it. What largely contributes to this is fear mongering caused by the increase in apocalyptic depictions of the Earth's state, with news headlines telling us things like experts claim we will all die within the next 10 years. This is counterproductive to the cause of environmental conservation. More and more people doubt that their individual contributions really mean anything, given the sheer extent of the climate crisis. However, I believe that recognizing the possibility of a brighter future is key for us to truly overcome climate change. If we are disheartened by the fact that we must face the consequences of the previous generations, It is only fair that we consider the impacts of our actions on the future generations. To overcome this sense of dread, we must first understand that letting these feelings hinder action only further contributes to climate change and undermines the individual efforts of others. For these efforts to be worthwhile, it is a necessity that every one of us does anything and everything we can, no matter how minute, to contribute to climate mitigation. Of course, overcoming climate change will require technological advancements, innovations, and structural changes. But our lifestyle changes can still go a long way. It can start with small things like bringing a reusable shopping bag, conserving water and electricity, and recycling trash. My parents have been particular about saving resources, and while the goal was to save money, it's helped me develop simple habits, such as switching off electrical appliances when they're not in use and reducing wastage. I remember how my mom would scold me when I was younger for washing the dishes under a running tap instead of using water stored in a tub. You may also go out of your way to educate others. In primary school, I remember my friends and I partook in an activity to promote recycling. I still have memories of creating posters together and informing students in the canteen on how to recycle their rubbish. I'm sure that many of us are already all aware of the various and incredibly simple ways we can play a role in climate conservation, given how it is commonly preached about in schools and an increasingly popular topic of media. This, however, raises the question, why do so many of us choose not to carry out these simple tasks, despite understanding their benefits and the sheer severity of the climate crisis? The answer, I believe it ultimately boils down to one factor: hope. It is the difference between being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and succumbing to the grim probabilities, believing that it implies certain doom. Whether we think about it or not, hope is a part of everyone's life. To me, it's made my tough situations more bearable, as it's allowed me to envision a better future for myself to create goals. This in turn pushes me to work towards these objectives. And in that regard, I'm confident it's helped many of you too. So, why do I believe that hope is so important? It's because it allows us to acknowledge that situations can and will change. Likewise, the state of our planet can improve. Climate change is not irreversible. Things may not seem too optimistic for now, but the situation is changing. The United States greenhouse gas emissions have decreased by about 20% in the last 15 years, while the EU overshot its 2020 target, reducing emissions by 34% in comparison to 1990 emission levels. Of course, this is not enough to stop climate change, but this presents something else significant. Unlike before, it is now possible to lessen emissions without jeopardizing economic growth. To add on, there have been significant eco-friendly tech advancements in the clean energy sector, and in fact, it far exceeds initial predictions. The shift to renewable energy is expected to continue to grow at an astounding rate. Global renewable energy installations hit record levels in 2020, and experts believe that it will beat coal as the world's largest energy source within the next few decades. Rather than focusing on the lack of progress, I believe that it's more important to focus on the progress that we are making. When we do reach net zero emissions, Earth's temperature would continue to rise gradually, but it would eventually stabilize and decline. Ultimately, I genuinely believe that technology is humanity's most powerful tool, and I yearn for it to be used in a beneficial way. I find learning fascinating, and nothing would make me happier than seeing our newfound scientific knowledge being used to our advantage. But what I find further fascinating is that there is much, much more to discover. Hence, to me, technology is our future, and it is the path that we take that determines humanity's future. I believe that it is our hope, or lack thereof, that will decide the path that we set foot on. And the positive advancements that we have been seeing so far are indicative of great potential. Just like all of you, I desire to see a long and extended future for humanity, not just for me and you, but for the future generations. So by taking small steps, from first having hope, to adapting our lifestyles and then influencing others to do the same, I hope that all of us will eventually overcome climate change together.